Okay. Good morning and happy Friday. Thanks for joining for another session of Azure Power Lunch. Um, and good to see everybody. I was out on vacation for the past few sessions. So today's topic is Azure Dedicated Host. And just keep in mind, this is kind of a quick intro about the slide deck will be available and we will upload the video as well to our YouTube channel. And as we always do, we're going to start with a quick round of Azure updates. And there are tons of updates that happens in every week or so it's hard to cover all of them. I'm just going to cover a few of the important ones. One of them is, if you're not familiar with SQL database serverless, it's a good idea to go back to one of our sessions. We covered SQL database serverless, which is an option where you only pay for when you consume your, only pay for the compute when you are actually running queries against SQL database. So this is now, it has scale limit has gone from 4 cores, vCores, to 16 vCores. So now you have a pretty large um, kind of a scale where you can take your database to. So that's something that has just been announced, and that you can, max vCore. Before it was from 0 to 4. Now it is 16 vCore. Another exciting announcement is on the storage side, which is, as you know, that we have four in Azure storage. We had locally redundant, which is multiple copies in the same region. Um, then we have zone redundant, which is multiple copies in across. So this is further provides you ability against any type of data loss. So if you lose a zone, you still have your data. Then we had the uh, geo-redundant, which is multiple copies in one region and a replica in another region. You can do manual failover. Then we had read access geo-redundant, where you can get readable access to the second replica that you have in another region. And finally, now we have uh, zone geo-redundant. So you have zone redundant in one region, zone redundant in other, a replica, and you can get read access replica to the other region, which is read access uh, geo zone redundant. I mean, it's a mouthful. This is the blog that I think you want to kind of take a quick look. This gives you a matrix of what SLA is, and the durability and all that, and what it means. And you can get access to it from Azure updates. So maybe bookmark this page and just know about what's new in the world of Azure. So it's a pretty useful site. Any questions so far? Okie dokie. So let's start with our topic of discussion today, which is Azure Dedicated Host. As I said, so this is, we cover this, new services. This is not a new service in my opinion. This is basically an offering on the compute service for more privacy and more control, gives you more control. So what this is, Azure Dedicated Host, it allows you to have a host in a data center all uh, for your all by yourself. So you can run one VM on it, or run many VMs on it on that particular host. Okay. Um, so we're gonna go through some of the feature. So as you know, that in data centers, we have host VMs which provide virtualization, and on that you run your guest VMs. When you create an Azure VM, it can pop up on any of those hosts. Let's say if you restart that VM once again can pop up on the same host or a different host. Okay. And if you are running an application which is made up of a number of VMs, then those VMs may be running on multiple different hosts. Okay, and the way we provide and so there are a number of things that is good with it in the sense that, let's say if one host fails, you don't lose an application because you may have other VMs which are running on different hosts, given you are using availability sets. If you are using availability zones, then those VMs, you can spread those VMs across different zones. So if the zone fails in a data center, and once again, let me just take a quick step back on the data center architecture. What we call a region, I always take this example of a pizza pie. So if region is a pizza, each place in that pizza is a zone. With a separate network and power provider, there is logical or physical separation between zones. Okay. Then we have each topping, like a pepperoni, is the data center. So basically, you can have multiple data centers in a zone, of course, multiple data centers in a region. So when we talk about a Azure region, we are not talking about a single data center. Okay, and zones are becoming coming to all regions in Azure. And by the way, just one request, folks, if you don't mind, if you're not asking, please mute your phone. Thank you very much. So going back to the dedicated host, so each data center has these virtualization hosts on which your VMs are running. With Azure dedicated hosts, you can basically reserve the entire host for yourself. In that case, you have the entire host at your disposal, and you can basically at that point use that host to put your VMs on. So this is kind of a very powerful way of asserting control. So yes, that's good, but what it provides you, what it gives you, first of all, this is a host that you can put one or all of your VM. You can put a one large VM on it or smaller VMs on it. You can control, you have more controls on it. Basically you can control maintenance, and we will talk about that in a second. um, There is no API change. You can use the same portal, and we will take a look at it in a second. Portal, CLI, PowerShell, ARM, everything is the same. You still use the same tools to build and create those VMs. Okay, and you can access underlying VM capabilities. So right now there are three families of VMs which are we making them available, which is DV3, E as in elephant V3, and F V2. That is going to be available very soon. These two are available. D as in David V3 and E as in elephant V3. They are right now available. Okay. What are some of the benefits that we get? First of all, in a number of cases, it's going to be a compliance requirement that you run your um, VMs on a host where there is nothing running underneath. Okay, so basically, so no other host is running those their VMs on the same hardware that you are running. This is sometime a compliance requirement. Okay, so your workload needs to be run in an isolated manner. Okay, that's definitely in some scenario it may not be applicable to you or your, but for some customers or some in some cases that's a requirement. So that's you can use that. Okay, control. What you can do is you can delay or schedule maintenance within a 35-day window. Okay, so that's very important. Sometimes you don't want to go through the Azure. You're running VMs, certain VMs that you cannot afford that they reboot because they're maybe running those applications which are running on a single VM, and a reboot will cause some business consequences. So that case, you don't want those VM to be touched for a certain period of time. Maybe you're going through some busy cycles, and you don't want to do any maintenance during that time. So that's where it helps, where you can control the maintenance cycle. And finally, you can get the same cost savings. So from the get-go, it supports Azure hybrid usage benefit. So you can bring your SQL Server and Windows Server licenses to um, to um, uh, to Azure to take advantage of dedicated host as well. So that's something that you can definitely use that. Okay. Once again, some of the common use cases. As I said, for the benefits, it's for the policy and compliance. You want the control of your host. You want a control of the maintenance cycle, and better use on-prem licenses. So these are some of the things. Um, yeah. So this is pretty much so how you create it. By the way, the slide deck will be available so you can take a look at it, how you create it, the way you start it, and we're gonna, do a quick demo to take a look at it. By the way, any questions so far? Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a quick demo to take a look at it. So let's go in here. First of all, the way we do it, we create a group. Um, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna type in a group, or let's go into host services, and it is called a host group. So the way it works is you first create a host group, and then you create a dedicated host, and then you can start putting VMs on that particular host. Okay, so let's quickly go in and let's see how the experience look like for creating a group. So I'm gonna go into description. I'm gonna create a new resource group, APL demo. Okay, and a host group name is and I'm gonna create it in West US. Excuse me. So let's do it in East US. And we're going to use availability zone 1. And we're going to review and create. It's going to do validation. And then it's going to create the VM. Folks, I'm really sorry. I'm having some like sore throat, so allergies. So you may hear my voice a bit raspy. So forgive me for that. It will take a second to create that particular resource. Once that host group is created, by the way, when you create the host group, you are not paying any charges. At this point, you just making an intent of creating a host in a certain region. You allocated any host at that moment. So there is nothing that you have to pay for. And by the way, just to save time, what we're going to do is we are going to go into um, you know, um, host groups and the experience. As already saw the experience, we're going to see it here. So this is a host group that is already created. The next thing you want to do is create a host. So, so once again, create resource. Let's do host. And We are gonna do select the um, resource group, and we are gonna pick up East US. As you can see, there are only some families which are available, DI and ES3. We can pick one of those. We pick the host, we pick the fault domain, and then this is very interesting, automatically replaced host on failure. So what it will happen is, since you are taking the whole host, and if your host fails, it's going to replace the host. I mean, you can pick the option that don't replace it. Let that host start up for some reason, but it will replace the host. So it will pop your VM on a different host. Okay. So let's quickly do review and create. By the way, once I create this, it's gonna create the, so now you will have with this, even if you don't deploy a single VM, you have allocated 64 vCores. This is very important. So creating a dedicated host, you are the billing meter started. You're already paying. Once you have created the host, you already paying. I think it's around $4 an hour on pay as you go. So you're already paying the charges. So this is very important point to keep in mind. You may not deploy a single VM on that, or you may deploy a one core VM. Once you have created that, the dedicated host, you are paying the charges. So that's something to keep in mind. Any questions?
Question. So if you have a dedicated host and you run VMs on this host, are you also being charged for the VMs running on that host?
No, no, no. That's the thing. You pay for the host, not for the VM running on the host.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Excuse me. Seems like So let's go on to the creation of the VM experience. So let's go in and create a virtual machine. I'm gonna create a Linux VM, and I'm gonna go into subscription and I'm gonna use a host that I have previously created. Please keep in mind you have to select the same region and same requirement. So I selected availability zone 1, and I have to select availability zone 1 as well. Same stuff. I'm going to use SSH, and I'm just going to take you directly to the advanced section. That's where you will select the host. That's where you select the host, and that's it. Once you're done, once you create the VM now, the VM is sitting on the host. It's running on that particular host. And as I said before, you are not being charged for that VM. You are only charged for the whole entire host. Okay. So that's very important point to keep in mind.
And the charges are per hour?
Yes, per hour. Actually per second, but yeah, per hour. That is correct. Okay. So let's go back to the deck. I want to share a few things here. So here are some of the, one second, what I want to share here. Yeah. So here, as I said, DV3 and EV3 are available today, and FV2 will be available very, very soon. Okay. These are some of the options, storage option. You can use standard disk, standard SSD, premium SSDs. Excuse me. And then these are the size of VMs that you can create. Please keep in mind that these are the physical core, these are the vCPU count, and these are the number of VMs that you can create. So if you are doing D2S, you can create 32 VMs. While if you're using D64, you can create only one VM on that dedicated host.
Hey, Naveed, are these hard limits?
Sorry?
Are these hard limits on these VM, total number of VMs?
Yeah, because you are limited by the vCores. You have 64 vCPU. So unless until they come up with a bigger host, you cannot create a bigger VM than 64 on that. Did you get your answer?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Sorry for the voice. So, I mean, that's kind of pretty much it about dedicated host. Is the same compute, but now provided to you through a dedicated host where you can host your VMs. There is nothing in terms of, I mean, of a new compute. It is more privacy, more control, more ease to use your on-prem licenses in Azure. So that's pretty much the benefit that it provides you. Azure dedicated host. I want to open up for any questions. Any questions, comments, feedback? Okay. And I really, so I think we may have to, I will give everybody 5 minutes back. And I really apologize for the voice. Um, you know, losing my voice. I was giving a presentation this morning, so I think it's too much with the allergies. So once again, thanks for joining and hope to see everybody back next week. And I will uh, uh, put the video as well as um, the presentation out as we did with other ones. So thank you very much and have a great weekend, everyone.